Hi, we are reading Del Toro Moon by Darby Karsha, and we are reading chapter 18. I'll be reading. Well, actually, my mom has volunteered again. She is so generous to guest read to the next chapter. I know, I have so many guest readers. You're welcome. So, my mom will be reading chapter 19. I'm reading chapter 18. Bet you $10 that Skinner eats Albury by supper. Standing beside Elsid's head at the end of the gate, I stared down into the valley. A lanky figure paced back and forth among the boulders, a bundle of short wooden stakes in one hand. Albert's kahakai shirt matched the sand, with a wide-brimmed hat shaded his face. His Land Rover was parked nearby. As I watched, he thrust one of the stakes into the ground, walked a few paces, and planted another one. You mean eats him for supper? Ben said. Izzy chuffed. Good one. She nudged his shoulder with the side of her nose. I inched closer to the gray, grateful for any shade from the afternoon sun. A few feet away, Dad leaned on a boulder, his elbow propped on the top of the rocks and his hat shoved back. He appeared through a pair of binoculars pressed to his face. What's he doing? I asked. Looking for fossils already? Dad adjusted the focus, probably marking the location for the campsite. What about the coffer? What if they find the cave? An image of scientists opening the chest in the middle of their camp and the Skinners bursting out into the sunlight played in my head, just like that scene in the first Indiana Jones movie when the bad guys opened the Ark and got melted. Nazi popsicles on a hot day. Yeesh. I ordered myself to think of something else, but another image, that smaller coffer, the red casket showed up. I shoved that one away too. The cave is well hidden. A person would have to know where to search behind that huge block. He lowered the glasses. He is fortunate that the Skinners seem to have backed off. Because of us? Possibly. Or increased presence may have forced the creatures to stay hidden for now. Still, we better go and talk with him. Try again. It'll be a waste of time, Ben said. Etchewing? Sorry, the stirrups. He grabbed the horn and swung into the saddle. Big show off. He thinks we're just a bunch of ignorant Mexicans. Then let us prove to him otherwise. Dad mounted and adjusted his hat. Turk? The black led the way at the ground, munching lope. As we neared, Albury turned at the rumble of hooves, hesitated for a moment, then sauntered over and met us. Dr. Albury. Hello again, Javier. Albury studied us through his thick glasses, eyes lingering on our iron maces hanging from the saddle horns. Turk stomped a hoof and shook his head, sending his black mane flying. The scientist eased backwards. I could almost hear his thoughts. Move slowly. Don't make eye contact. Do not frighten him, Turk. Dad patted the stallion's neck. So, any chance of me talking you out of this? The man kept one eye on Turk. You mean setting up camp out here, or the dig itself? Both. Look. Albury removed his hat and took a step forward. Dad, and took a step forward towards Dad. He froze when Turk showed his teeth. I don't understand why you're so set against me and my team working here. Tucking the bundles of stakes under one arm, he began ticking off on his fingers. We're not anywhere near your ranch. We have the permission of both the federal and state authorities, and even more importantly, the area holds some of the richest fossil deposits in the western United States. They'll mean nothing when you're dead. Dad rested an arm on the saddle horn. The maze has claimed the lives of too many innocent people over the years. Accidents. Elbury flapped his hat, dismissing Dad's warning. Careless accidents. Regrettable, I agree, but people need to accept a certain amount of risk if they decide to explore in here. And with any kind of field work, risk is part of the job. What about the dig back in the 1940s? The one under Dr. Elmore Riggs, who discovered the Apatosaurus excellius fossil. Ben and I exchanged furtive glances, my brother reining in a grin. Throwing out arcane facts in Latin words while mounted on the horse and wearing a cowboy hat was how our father rolled. The camp was attacked one night, Dad continued, and most of the workers were killed. They tried to cover it up, but the few survivors claimed that it was some sort of enormous dog-like creature, more than one. For a long moment, Elbury stared at him, mouth open. How did you know about that? Because my grandfather was one of the locals who rode to their aid. Actually, I knew that Mateo Francis del Toro was the only local who helped after one of the survivors stumbled out of the maze and limped the 2 miles to our ranch. I always tried to imagine what my great grandfather must have looked like riding into that destroyed camp at dawn, mounted on a snow white mare and an iron mace in one hand. Albert shook his head, not buying that story. Dogs, even in a pack, rarely go after people. It was wolves, I blurted out. Big ones. He snorted. I happen to know, young man, that there are no wolves left in Colorado. That's what makes them so dangerous. Ben picked up the corner of his fable we were leaving. People don't believe they're still around, but they are. Folks are usually convinced when it's too late. Too late? Yeah, right when the body part's being chewed off. Albert looked at Dad, who added with a straight face, "It is a rare species native only in the maze, Canis lupus labyrinthum. It is much larger than a regular wolf, and with a red instead of gray pelt. Trust me, my friend. Once you have seen it, you will never forget it." Under me, Elsid shook with silent laughter. I knew the Greek side of him was dying to be part of the conversation. Albert's face tightened with a mix of suspension and determination. "The dig will proceed as planned." He clapped his hat on the back of his head. "And just to ease your concern, I'll make sure my people are armed and work in teams. Surely those wolves are whatever they are won't attack a camp full of people. Not with generators running campfires and all that." Dad gathered up his reins. "That depends." "Depends on what?" "On how hungry they are." He clucked his tongue. Turk planted his hind feet, whirled around, and led out for the gate. The rest of our possess fell in behind him. Else had caught up with Turk. "Really, Javier? Canis lupus labyrinthium? Clever, no?" Dad winked up at me. The gray sniffed. I thought it was a bit pe- pedantic? Pedantic. Dad raised an eyebrow. "Thus spackleth the kettle." Okay, they keep using words I don't know. Elsid flattened his ears. "I am not pedantic. Oh, and by the way, are you certain of your Latin? Labyrinthium?" Dad thought for a moment. "The denclicition may be wrong." It was conversations like these that made Ben and I dream of running away and joining something more ordinary than our family, like a circus. Just as we reached the edge of the valley, all three steeds slammed to a stop, ears pointed back. Yanking my mace from the horn, I swiveled around trying to spot the Skinners coming for us. Then I heard a scream. A human scream. Dad cursed under his breath. Exquisite timing. "All right, mis amigos, top speed." The steeds spun around in a synchronized move and took off. "Sure would have been nice," as he shouted as we pounded along, "if those Skinners could have attacked the guy before we got all the way to the gate. But if he gets eaten," Turk points out, "that solved a lot of our problems." For once, I agreed with the stallion. Squinting in the wind, I spotted Albury. In spite of what Turk had said, I sagged relief at the sight of the guy perched on top of a massive boulder twice the height of a warhorse. Its base, a Skinner stood on its hind legs, front paws clawing and jaws snapping. How Aubrey managed to scramble so far up was beyond me. Guess a guy could do amazing feats when being chased by a meatloaf with fangs. "Maybe," I yelled at Elsid, "he'll believe us now." At the rumble of our Del Toro thunder, the Skinner jerked its head around and bared its teeth. With a snarl, it slunk away. Running eastward across the valley, a black cloud of flies hurried to keep up. They disappeared behind a jumble of rocks. "That's right, you piece of rump roast," I thought. "Get out of here before we go Santiago on you." We skidded to a halt in a cloud of dust and lost uneasy, unnecessary Unnecessary snorting. Sorry, that's like split up on the page. Snorting on Turk's part. Chest heaving, Albright crouched on his haunches, knees almost level with his ears. He squinted down at us. Something about him seemed different. I mean, beside the fact that he looked like he was about to pass out. Then it struck me. His glasses were missing. A crunch under Elsid's hooves told me where they might be. I jumped down and began searching. "Javier? Thank heavens," Aubrey gasped. Was that one of those wolves?" "In the flesh," Ben said, "so to speak. Came out of nowhere," Albert coughed, patting his chest. "And the stench was overwhelming." "It did not bite you?" Dad studied the man. Albert glanced down at his arms and legs. No, I don't think so." "What exactly did you see?" "A swarm of flies was bothering me. I knocked my glasses off, waving them away. Before I could find them, I caught a blur of motion out of the corner of my eye." He laughed cheekily. "I must admit, all your talk of wolves made me jumpy. I should have run for my vehicle, but I was up on this rock before I knew it." "Your speed saved our life." Your life, sorry. Um, Dad rose in his stirrups and looked around. You may not be as lucky next time. I don't believe in luck, bad or good. I believe in preparation and strategy. Aubrey took a deep breath, and another. I was a fool not to carry a rifle with me. I should have known better at my last project in Tanzania. Hippos, extremely territorial and deadly. From now on, I'll be armed. Won't do you any good, I murmured before I could stop myself. Aubrey squinted down at me. I beg your pardon? What did you say? Nothing. I picked up his glasses. Here, I found these. One lens was cracked. I remounted and stood in the stirrups and passed them on to Aubrey. Stretching down, he took them from me. He frowned at the broken glass. Glass, yeah. Then put them on. Thank you, Ben. Whatever. I touched El Cid on the heel and he backed out of the way. Scooting on his bottom, Aubrey inched down the rock. He slid to the final 5 feet and landed on the ground with a grunt. Straightening, he adjusted his glasses. Well, that was exciting. Exciting enough to convince you to abandon the dig? Dad asked. As I said before, risk is inherent in this line of work. Aubrey began sliding over to the vehicle. Reaching it, he paused, one hand on the handle. Thank you for running that wolf. If it was a wolf, off. I hate to be rude, but I still have a great deal to do before the first of my crew arrives next week. Next week? My voice cracked in surprise. Yes, yes. Opening the door, Aubrey climbed inside. Most of them will be here by next Wednesday. It's Thursday at the latest. A day to settle in, then the real work begins. He started up the engine, powered down the window, and leaned out. And, just so you know, as of Monday, the valley is off limits to the general public. All visitors must check in at the site's headquarters. Government safety protocol. Antiquities protection regulation. Sorry. I'm sure you understand. Without waiting for a reply, he drove off, his SUV bouncing across the uneven ground. Roaring up the slope, the vehicle disappeared through the gate, the engine growling. Echo remained. Are all humans that clueless? Izzy asked El Cid. I noticed he didn't answer. And that is the end of chapter 18. We are almost done with this week's chapters. So, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and turn on notifications. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.